This is Duncan Fisher. You are listening to the A.C.E.S Junkyard Podcast live on 30.49 Comstar Radio.
Hello and welcome everybody to the Armored Combat Escalation Service Podcast, episode 53, your number one voted MWO and Battletech podcast, coming to you live from Jumping Over White Base. Today is May 16th, 2017. I'm your host, Brandon, also known as Cattra, Kell, and with me today, is Tierkren.
Yeah, were we jumping over White Base or are we jumping onto White Base?
Probably onto. I don't know.
Yeah.
Old memes die hard.
In our old late 1970s, early 1980s dune buggy.
Yeah, exactly. It's all kind of really weird and slow-mo, which is how we're able to do the podcast as this moment is happening in a period of time.
Yeah. Luckily, we're not like those other guys whose mouths never match up with what they're actually saying.
Yeah, they're weird. Space nerds are weird.
They always have to end all their sentences with haha, and I don't know if they're laughing at us, laughing at themselves.
Well, what really gets me
weird.
is like the really limited like animation or how they move. It's always like they have 3 frames of animation to move like a long distance. It's really weird. It creeps me out.
I hear they're going to be getting an update soon and going to a full CGI set of animation.
Oh no! I'm sure that will go well.
It'll be. They've been saying that'll be very interesting and. Using buzzwords like psychedelic and future-proofing. So,
I'm sure nothing possibly could go wrong there.
Yeah.
All right, so welcome everybody to the A.C.E.S Podcast. Today, we got a couple things to talk about, mainly to do with stuff that is happening today. One of the biggest thing, of course, being the patch notes. Going over them, kind of getting a feel of what people think about that sort of stuff, at least with our opinions on things that are happening. But first things first, biggest news I think to come out in the past week is that the HBS Battletech beta multiplayer game date has been announced, and that is June 1st at the earliest. And everything, I think you said there was a post from 4 days ago. Everything was still on track for that date.
Yes, HBS released a statement 4 days ago. Depending on when we put this up, that could be officially 6 days ago or 5 days ago. But anyway, they released an official statement telling us all that the Kickstarter backer beta is on track for release for June the 1st. That everything's looking well, playing well. The development team is firing on all cylinders, and that they need to take some more time to further test and bug fix the multiplayer code before releasing the beta into all of our wonderful little hands, which is the reason why it isn't being released now in May. They are talking about a lot of other testing that they're going to be doing. Part of this is with the announcement that they made around the same time, noting that they are entering into a partnership with Paradox Interactive for releasing Battletech onto the PC.
And for people who do not know who that is, some better known games, if you ever played Crusader Kings 2, Stellaris, City Skylines, Hearts of Iron, Victoria 2, like those sort of games.
Yeah, Paradox has a known history of doing turn-based strategy and the like, and they've got a pretty good track record with it. A lot of what they're going to be doing with HBS is helping with the localizations, making sure that's a high quality localization for all the different areas. They are also going to be providing additional test funding with more professional testers getting onto the game earlier so that when the game does ship out, it will be at the highest quality level that they can hopefully obtain. They are also hoping to increase a couple other things that they're keeping right now under hat. So we don't know exactly what it's going to entail, but they did hint that it has to do something with the multiplayer. We'll have to see exactly what that entails, but it it'll be hopefully all for the good. Paradox seems to be very enthusiastic from what they've released in statements about working with HBS. They are not looking to backseat drive. They are not an IGP. To make that comparison, they are respectful. It seems of HBS being the developers, and they're here to basically help facilitate HBS creating a high quality game and releasing it to as many BattleTech fans as possible.
Which will always be a good thing.
Yeah,
and also it should also be noted that Paradox Interactive themselves have been pretty good for releasing stuff like that. The only thing I think people have a real big gripe with, and this is more Paradox Games issue than Paradox Interactive because the two are somewhat separate. Interactive is who publishes, and games are the people who actually make it, or make games, I should say, obviously. But Paradox likes to have a lot of DLC. So that's something people have brought up concerns with. But as far as like publishing goes, I don't think that'll be too much of an issue.
Yeah.
That said, I don't think anyone will be too upset it depends on what you get as DLC, but if they decide to do an expansion to BattleTech, I don't think people would be too upset about that.
HBS has released a FAQ regarding the partnership. They did clarify that Paradox has no control over the game design. HBS has complete creative control of the game. They did note that Paradox has lots of BattleTech fans working for them who have opinions, just like all the beta backers. But HBS is not obligated to take their feedback. But they did note that that Paradox does have a great deal of experience with strategy games, and that HBS would be foolish to completely ignore that experience. So they will take advice if it's applicable. They talked about that customer support will be handled during the backer beta by HBS. But once the game launches, Paradox will handle customer support because they will have a full team of experienced support staff that have a good history of quality customer support. They will team up with the development team at HBS for investigation and vetting of any and all technical issues that occur upon the launch of the game. Paradox is definitely not getting any of the personal information from the Kickstarter. HBS wanted to be very clear that they take privacy very seriously. It will not be sharing any information gathered by a Kickstarter with Paradox or with anyone else. So
Which is good.
It seems a lot of what Paradox is being brought on to is for testing purposes, basic publishing purposes, and handling support upon launch. So HBS is still in full and complete control, and we should all be aware that they also have a good track record when it comes to developing games. And with the beta coming hopefully on June 1st, as stated, we'll get to have our first hands-on with it. That said, they haven't really specified completely what the backer beta will entail, but it's looking like it's not going to be the single player story campaign, but more of the multiplayer gameplay, which you will be able to play uh, against AI opponents. They haven't said if during the beta we'll also be getting networking capabilities to play against live opponents. So we'll have to still wait and see in regards to that. If you are at all interested in what to expect in the beta for the multiplayer portion, they did release a almost an hour long video.
It's like an hour 10 or something like that, I think.
Yeah, it's 55 minutes without without it, if you don't take into any like commercial breaks or anything like that. So it's that video, which is up on HBS's YouTube page.
Or if you just type in multiplayer BattleTech, it's like the first thing that pops up.
Yeah, it is an updated video. It has pretty much all the new features that are going in for the full release, and you'll be able to see exactly what's going to be available, how things are going to basically function. I watched it. I was quite impressed. It is everything I was hoping for, coming from tabletop and coming from Mech Commander and everything like that. This just is BattleTech. It's everything that you ever imagined playing tabletop and actually seeing it live in front of you. You don't have the little the little pewter figurines painted. You don't have little cardboard maps. You actually have real 3D terrain. You have good 3D models. You see effects. You see weapon fire. Everything looks really, really nice in the video. I cannot wait to get my hands on it in the beta.
Yeah, basically pretty much the same thing on my end. It's looking like a really good tactical game, and hopefully when June 1st hits, a couple of us might be streaming it, I hope. Should be fun times had by all. But let's jump into MechWarrior Online news. Might as well hit the biggest issue right away and get that over with, and that is the patch notes for today. So as people notice, today is Tuesdays. It's the big patch day, and whew, are the forums on fire. And
yeah,
some might be justified, some might not be, but let's go through these patch notes and you will be hearing our opinions as well. So first of all, of course, we have the Javelin being released. I personally have not purchased it yet, though from my understanding with talking to a couple people on a couple different Discord servers is that it's just kind of an mech. No one has really found a niche for it, and it's just kind of there.
One of the people I talked to about it actually said he is most reminded of the Firestarter when playing it, that it feels like a Firestarter that has missile hardpoints in terms of its speed, agility, and just ability to take damage. That feels a lot like how the Firestarters feel. The other thing I've noted from people talking about the Javelin is that the different variants some are proving to be more popular than others right out the gate. The hero is seemingly to be the most popular at the moment. It just seems to do everything really, really well. The 11B with ECM also seems to be pretty popular, but the 10F seems to be struggling, especially if you got the 11A as well, because the 11A has energy hard points in the right arm, whereas the 10F does not. The 10P seems to be popular for some missile bombing builds. One person I talked to said the 10P, they actually compared it to the old Hugin, the Raven Hero, saying that they're trying to figure out which one they like more, the Hugin or the Javelin, citing that each does the job well, and it really comes down to hitboxes and poking ability. That the Raven, being a little bit shorter because of being a chicken walker, can pop up a little bit better, but the Javelin seems to be able to take hits a little bit better. So they're still doing a lot of testing on it, but for the most part, most people seem to be all right with it. Well, since they've only had a couple hours right now to play around with it, we'll probably get a more in-depth analysis in the coming week or so.
Again, I think the biggest issue with a lot of people is that it just, one, people are more caught up with talking about the next thing we're going to talk about, but also the Javelin in general is just kind of, again, it's got us, it doesn't really, I'm trying to think how to put this properly, it doesn't really have a very standout niche at the moment. I'm sure someone will probably do something with one of the variants and absolutely make it at least that one variant a must own, because no more needs of 3 for mechs. But yeah, I don't know. Just from my talking with people, the Javelin just seemed kind of, it's not that they were like underwhelming at the moment, but I think it's more just people either are playing around with other things at the moment, and the Javelin is just kind of meh to a lot of people.
In regards to hit boxes for the mech, the thing I've been hearing most from all the people I've talked to is that it doesn't do well torso twisting to try to spread damage because the arms are pretty skinny. But the advantage it does have is that its legs are also very skinny, so it's hard to shoot that leg and put a ton of damage into the legs with each salvo. So if you're trying to do pinpoint damage to the legs as it goes running by, you miss more than you hit. But if you're using things like streaks and LBXs, you can easily start putting, piling damage onto it. So already some interesting thoughts coming out on just how to play it and how to utilize it properly. Most people seem to be of the opinion that it is definitely a skirmish mech that you run in, fire off, a salvo, and then run out as quickly as possible. Do not stand around in this thing.
So moving on to our next topic from the Javelin, of course, is the biggest thing that got implemented today.
Yes,
probably what
we
we'll
have
talk about.
new decals.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Of course, once again, card suits have been left out. PGI, why do you keep doing this? You're taunting us, I swear, at this point. I could say something quite inappropriate about it, but I'm just, you'll have to take my silence of disgust.
Jeez, he's guys. PGI, come on. Tier here is taking it real hard. I know he's been messaging me late at night. He's been like, I'm drinking here. There's no card suits. Like, I read the patch notes. I've already got like 3 bottles in. Like, you're killing the man, PGI.
I mean,
you're literally killing this man, PGI.
You put in all of the decals for clan emblems, and then you start putting in clan, the words Coyote, Diamond Shark, Goliath, Scorpion, but you can't put in a spade or a club or a diamond. Come on, what's the matter with you? You put in a hide there and a skull with sunglasses instead. Good Lord, what's the matter with you?
literally murdering this man. It's kind of really makes me cry late at night thinking about how you're gonna be long gone if this continues with no card suits. Of course, Wave 1 Clan Hero Mechs are now available for MC, so if you're a big MC hoarder like myself, and you didn't buy any of the Wave 1 Clan Hero Mechs, you can now get there for real money. You can now get them for MC. If anyone even still remembers what those Wave 1 Clan Hero Mechs were.
I see a couple of them every now and then in game. Surprisingly, a lot of the Kit Fox hero.
Yes, I was going to say, I think out of all the Wave 1 mechs, I think the lights and mediums are the ones that benefit the most out of those heroes, as far as like using the base variant and not just buying stuff for the Omnipods.
Yeah, I see the Lacerator, this Stormcrow hero, every now and then, but not often. I used to see the Direwolf, the Ultraviolet, more, but that seemed to have fallen to the wayside a little bit after people got over the 8 UX2 builds. I don't really see the Pride ever, but I do see a lot of people running the Pride Omnipods. Same thing for the Warhawk, the Nanook. I don't see that really ever. I see the Warrant, which is the Timberwolf hero, every once in a blue moon, but not that often. The Nova, the Breaker, I rarely see that. The Cinder, which is the Adder, I see that again like every once in a fortnight, but it really seems that the Purifier and the Lacerator are the only two I see with any type of frequency. So, as you said, I think a lot of it comes down to people just want the Omnipods. They're not running the mech itself often.
Yeah, that's basically what I think it comes down to as well, personally. But again, it's one of those things that hard to say. Some people might actually really like the heroes now that they're out for MC, but again, if you want to get all of them, it's going to run you still quite a bit because clan heroes are still expensive.
Yep.
Your cheapest 9, one being, I was going to say, basically 10,000 for the Direwolf MC and about 3,000 for the Kit Fox. That's rounding roughly.
The Direwolf is closer to 9,400 MC.
Or 95,
10, yeah. But the Kit Fox is close to 3,000 MC. If you're just wanting these for the Omnipods, I would definitely wait for a hero sale. When heroes go on for anywhere from 35 to 50% off their MC costs. Usually we see one of these, usually around like a 35% sale sometime in the summer, whereas we see a 50% closer into the winter, sometimes on Black Friday and other times around Christmas. So if you're just looking for them for the Omnipods, I would definitely say wait, hold on to your MC, spend it once they go on sale.
Yes, pretty much is what I would say as well. Of course, we also had the Victor and Quick Draw missile retrofit go into effect. Again, more purely cosmetic stuff, but if you...
Well, it's not just cosmetic. It also controls a little bit for volleys. Now, with the changes, all the tubes are shown for the missile system, so you don't get if you fire, say, an LRM-20 and it only had 10 tubes, you don't get two 10 missile volleys out of it. You get all 20 out in one go, which I've heard different reactions to this. Some people really like the volley system on it. Other people didn't. Some people like the old look of the limited tubes, feeling that it fit better aesthetically onto the mechs, whereas the new one, they feel it makes it look like the systems been crammed in there, especially if you've mounted multiples of these larger launchers. So mixed feelings, it seems, from people about this change.
Other than that, I seem to have lost my tab, unfortunately. Give me a second.
So, what other, before we get in,
I think that pretty much is everything.
there was a change. If you've completed the cadet bonus number 25 achievement, it used to be you just got 200,000 C-bills for it. Now they've tacked onto that an additional award of 48,000 GXP. This reward is retroactive, so if you are logging into the game for the first time since this patch has gone in, and you get an account injection of 48,000 GXP, it's from you finishing that achievement and getting that additional cadet bonus. I have seen people, going, why did my account get injected? Is this part of the skill tree refund? No, it's not part of the skill tree refund. This is part of something else. This is part
Correct.
of this is an additional award given out for completing the cadet bonus number 25 achievement. So if you've gone through all of your cadet bonuses, then you're getting this retroactively. If you have not finished your cadet bonuses, then this is waiting for you at the end when you do finish them.
Okay, so should we talk about now the other big thing?
Yes, since that is the thing that seems to have set the forums on fire, both here on the MWO forums, on the Reddit forums, and on several major community tournament sites and other community MWO related sites. This seems to be the big thing that everyone is talking about.
And that would be the implementation of the skill tree.
Yes,
and
the new skill tree.
The new skill tree is in the game. It changes quite a bit of things. People are somewhat confused. It has been nicknamed the skill maze.
Yes, I've seen that post a lot.
Let's just get your opinion first here, and I'll give mine after.
Well, I feel like we should first say that before this actually went and was implemented, we did get a post from Paul with a question and answer regarding why the changes were being made, what was affected, what was not being affected. It should also be noted that there were two major public tests for the skill tree. Some people participated, many people did not. So I do have to predicate, some of what we're going to say on that. If you're complaining and you did not take part in the public test, shame on you. You had ample opportunity ahead of time to get in, test some of these new features, and apply feedback. That being said, there are a number of people who are complaining about the skill tree implementation who did do the public test and who did voice concerns, and some of those concerns were listened to, some of them were not. So it's, you did what you could. We all did. BGI went with the path that they thought was best. We'll just have to wait and see how things play out. Remember, this is not fully set in stone, even though it's been implemented. We can fully expect changes to be made at later dates and times, balances to be redone, depending on how people utilize the skill tree, what nodes are utilized the most. We do know that in June there is going to be a balance pass regarding the weapon systems. They were going to initially try to do that at the same time as the skill tree was implemented. That was instead scratched and moved to a later date just due to the complexity of of adding in this whole new skill system to the game. So in June, we are expecting a balance pass on the weapons that are going to redefine some of the weapons and what they can do. We are also expecting a pass on the skill tree in July when we get the Civil War update. We do know that there are going to be nodes that are going to be added, and some that might be affected with the changes for the Civil War update. There are going to be new weapon systems added in that are going to get their own nodes. Things are going to be affected by that. So we can expect the skill tree to get tweaked somewhat come July. They may just do it for the Civil War update, or they may decide to make additional tweaks depending on how what player feedback is. Now that this patch is in the wild and everyone's got their hands on it, so before you go, lighting up the forums with bonfires calling for PGI's head, you know, take
Game's
some
dead.
yeah,
Uninstall. Game's dead.
take some
Uninstall.
time, take a deep breath, realize that it's a actively updated game. At least once a month, it gets updated. Sometimes there are hot fixes that make necessary changes that are needed immediately. Uh, so don't think that this is the end all be all. We fully expect at some point, changes to get made, balance issues to be addressed. So take your time. If you have criticism, try to be constructive with it. Simply yelling at PGI saying, "You've killed MWO, I hate you, I'm going to my room, screw you," doesn't help the situation. Be constructive, be respectful, point, to what the issues that you're having are. Say, if you can, offer, a potential solution. And don't just say, go back to the old way. That's not a solution. That's a cop out. So, before you, start burning down the forums or marching upon the Vancouver offices, take some time, try to think about it. It's really easy to do a knee-jerk reaction, which is what we're seeing a lot of on the forums and on
Yes.
Reddit. I would, highly, highly encourage you, take some time, play a couple matches, walk away for maybe a period of 24 hours, come back, play some more matches, give it some time, work with it a little bit. And if you're still unhappy after, say, a week, yeah, then, post up a thread or a posting saying, this is what I don't like. This is, what the actual details are. This is what I would like to see as a potential fix. If, you have thought fully through of, what you could do for a potential fix, be constructive.
Yes, basically ended on that. If you have gripes, and I have seen some really good write-ups actually about issues with the skill tree. But yeah, just don't go in there and like absolutely shitpost. And this isn't us just like putting our lips to PGI's ass and just like accepting.
Oh no! Of course, no.
Like just before someone
No.
says that. But like this isn't us saying like, oh, the skill tree's great. If you don't like it, you're big babies and go back to your basement.
Yeah.
This is us saying if you have issues with it, and some of us, I know between myself and Tier, we do have issues with it, but we're not just going to go on the forums and be like, uninstalled the game today because PGI's a bunch of inconsistent babies or something like that. Probably with more profanity. But, like, actually have a big write-up and post it. And I know for a fact that PGI does read that stuff. Especially big, well-constructed write-ups, especially people who even put in, I'm trying to remember whose post it was, see if I can find it real quick, because I'm pretty sure I had it favorited, but it might have been on another computer. I know there's some people that do mock-ups of features they'd like to see, and post them as well, and like that's where the PGI sees that. And so that's the way to go about doing criticism, and not just throwing or making a big painting of the Mona Lisa out of shit on the wall. Like
and to follow up on that, when it comes to making mock-ups, we've seen this work in the past. Changes that were made to the HUD in game way back in the day were implemented after someone said, this HUD is not working as we all want it to. Here's a mock-up, here's a suggestion of what the HUD could and potentially should look like. And PGI took that and ran with it. And they didn't, copy it verbatim, piece for piece. They took what they thought was best from it and added their own additions. And it turned out, pretty well. Most people were quite pleased with it. So if you are going to, be critiquing, try to come up with something that, could be a potential fix. So, and just to remember, as a point of clarification, we're not kissing ass. If anyone is at all familiar with our previous podcasts, we do bring a good large chunk of criticism, critiquing of PGI every episode at the very least, if not in the same episode that we praise them.
We just don't put our very hostile opinions on blast, and we usually, when we do talk about this sort of stuff, have basically, I don't want to say stats to back it up, but like an argument of some sort, yes. And we try to explain it. Anyways, going back to the skill tree.
The skill tree, though. Yes, the skill
tree. Just that
tree.
big 20-minute disclaimer about how we're not kissing ass. Now let's talk about the skill tree and kiss ass.
Well, so we don't want to be like PGI. We don't want people at our doors with pitchforks and torches and everything like that. If you guys are at all interested in doing that, please go to PGI. Don't come to us.
Yeah, please don't. I actually own a cannon and it's pointed at my door. Please don't. I don't want to use it.
And I live in the United States where
where you're allowed to have real weapons and not 16th century cannons pointed at your door.
Yeah. The skill tree.
Yes.
First of all, overall impression, Cattra. What if you had to sum it up with an overall impression? What are your thoughts on it?
Not bad, but could be improved. That'd be my one sentence review. I've been having actually a little bit of fun with it. I've been so me and a couple guys on the Discord. I'm not going to say which one. Actually, I might. It's if anyone knows who Smutty is, it's his Discord. I've been playing around with some of the builds and that sort of thing, and there's some really fun stuff you can do, which I think is really neat. So one of the builds, for example, that one of the gentlemen on there came up with was using the roughneck. He was able to, I think, get the center torso armor up to about 120 points, or maybe a little bit less. So it was either 102 or 120, I forget. It was either 102 or 120, which is a huge amount of armor.
Yes.
Just using the quirks, and then he loaded it up with energy, took the basically the heat reduction quirks on top of that, and the cooldown quirks and all that sort of stuff, and it made a really, really interesting and fun roughneck that was really, really tanky. And then we all joke saying how PGI only did this because they want to try to force their mech that isn't canon onto everybody, and therefore it's going to be good. But no, there's stuff like that which I think is really, really neat and really, really fun to look at and try to play around with. Some mechs got super tanky. I think the Atlas can go up to something if you take
the Atlas got
it's huge. Like the amount of armor, if you take structure quirks and all that sort of stuff, the amount of tankiness that an Atlas can become now is pretty high. I think it's I want to say something like 150, 160. Like it's a lot.
Yeah,
they can take punishment now.
Yeah, if even without speccing your skill tree for armor and structure and the quirks that are on it right now, armor was not really touched, internals were not, structure wasn't really touched, depending on what variant of the Atlas you're looking at. The crit chance receiving was kept pretty much the same across all of them. If you add in armor and structure points from the skill tree, the Atlases become big lumbering zombie beasts. They can take punishment. They can take a lot of punishment.
Yeah, and I think
That's
we'll see a lot more builds like that as more people play around. Like this is again, the patch has been out for what, maybe 5 hours now, roughly.
it launched roughly around 2 o'clock, 2:30 Eastern was when servers went back up. Um,
Yeah, so
so
roughly
it's
about
been
5 hours.
yeah, it's been roughly 5 hours, give or
Yeah.
take.
So
So
there's still a lot of people playing around with it. So I'm sure we'll see some more of these crazy builds come out. But these are just things that I've,
yeah,
when talking to people, have seen.
yeah, and I
Come.
fully expect some of these things. We did see a lot of mechs losing quirks with the
Yes.
implementation of the new skill tree. Uh, I fully expect quirks that are still there to have values tweaked um, in the coming weeks and months, depending upon how people start specking them out. If PGI sees everyone taking atlases and just piling on armor and structure quirks, they're probably going to say, okay, the atlases don't need to have these extra these initial quirks that are already on there if people are going to use the skill tree to add in the additional protection. you know so I fully expect this, to get changed at some point. The same thing for the urban mech. The urban mech is incredibly tanky for a light now. It's got with the armor and structure quirks that can be added to it. It's Some people are pointing to one of the big losers being the locust. That the locust lost all of its mobility,
Yes,
partly due to
the
the loss of
locust, unless you
quirks.
invest heavily into speed and agility type thing, which takes away from other areas, of course. Yes, the locust is probably, I think, the biggest loser on the light side of things. So I'm expecting the beef to make a either an appearance or a comment about it
Yeah.
soon.
But that said, I did some initial testing with the Locust and a couple other light mechs, and while the Locust isn't as fast and agile as it was before the patch, in comparison to the other lights, it's still comparable. Uh, while it lost a lot of its agility and speed and all of those mobility quirks, a lot of the other lights also lost those quirks. At the very least, they lost turn rate, acceleration, and deceleration due to the engine desync. Others lost more from it. So overall, I think things are still in line with one another, but it does require more testing. And again, I fully expect to see PGI at some point go in and double check a lot of these things, and we could see things get added back in. We could get things taken out. As we've said, it's been implemented, but nothing is written in stone forever.
Yeah. Some of the stuff that so far I've spec'd out, I think about 4 or 5 mechs, like actually going through and specking it how I want, not just clicking stuff and being like, oh, this is what I can do with this mech, blah blah blah. But like I did my top dog, Thunderbolt, which is like my go-to mech. And I actually noticed an increase in performance on it. So basically, I put a lot into the energy side of the weapons chart, and by that I mean going down the sides, increasing the range and the cooldown, taking heat gen, and then going down and grabbing laser duration quirks and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And no, go ahead.
Another little disclaimer that should be put up. A number of people are posting up screenshots of these, so I feel that should be addressed. A couple of the mechs, most notably the Awesome 8R and a couple of the Atlas variants, uh, on the PDFs outlining quirk changes and everything, show for their torso turn angle, the yaw, their
Oh yeah,
current
being like
to
minus 2,000% or something
yeah.
like that.
Some are minus 2,000, some are minus 15,000, and some people are saying, oh, they went too far. Uh, right now, that could be just the value the actual value based not only on removing the value that's currently in there, but also compounding it with the engine desynced to get to that number. Or it could be very simply that whoever wrote the PDF off put one too many zeros there. We don't know officially what it is. We have to do some more testing to double check that, and I fully expect someone at some point in time from PGI to actually put up a clarifying post on that, because so many people are posting up these screenshots and going, what the hell? So don't lose your mind over these gigantic negative percentages when it comes to torso turn, angle, yaw. I think this is all still in line with everything we are led to expect. It's just a little jarring to see the actual number on paper. If that is the actual number, it could be a mistyping, or it could be something as simple as I said earlier. It could be the actual value being taken out and then that value also being compounded with the engine desynced.
And that's the other thing to bring up as well, like beside this. There's a couple things actually. Two things I want to talk real quick. The decoupling and desync of the engine. I think people noticed that a lot this patch. And again, I'm just branching off because even though you're talking about the change in quirks and blah, 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 blah. The engine desync also came into this patch, I believe.
Yes.
And another thing, which I don't think people really picked up on, is that your coolant shots now have a countdown or cooldown timer, so you just can't mash them as well.
Yes.
That is something I don't think... Was that in the patch notes? Or was
it's
that just...
in there underneath if you go to the consumables section.
Down,
if you
operations, sensors, auxiliary,
Yeah, if you go to the auxiliary.
So yes, people who are very much concerned about, wait, I can have 4 or 5 consumable slots if I max this out, and I can just load up all I can have in coolant flushes. I mean, you could, but you can't mash them like you once did.
Yes.
Because I remember playing like very heavy energy, but like Top Dog again, for example. Basically, I'm at 100% heat. I'm just gonna mash the coolant flush button until I'm back at like 10, and then just continue to alpha medium pulse lasers.
Yeah.
Like you can't do that anymore. There's a little bit more the cooldown or the coolant countdown timer. It's not a long cooldown, but it's enough that you can't just spam it and run cool anymore. It's got a little bit more requirement of knowing when to use it, that you need to, the period you need to wait to use it again, that you have to kind of take that into account now. There's a little bit,
yes,
I don't want to say skill to it, but it's more of a knowledge thing.
Yeah, it plays into having more situational awareness and observation. Yeah. Because this was a concern, especially with the 2Kid event, where we were seeing a lot of energy builds, particularly the Battlemaster and the Stalker, that were taking either 6 ER large lasers or 5 large pulse lasers and just pouring fire after fire after fire from them on, and people would load up with their 2 cool shots, and when they were about to overheat, pop a cool shot, keep firing. When they were about to overheat, pop that second cool shot and keep firing, and just racking up the damage with it. Same thing for the clans. We saw a lot of people taking heavy energy builds, both with the Nova, the Ebon Jaguar, the Hellbringers, and doing the exact same thing to varying degrees of success. And people were concerned that, at least those who had taken part in the public test with the changes to the consumables, that, okay, if I can load up with 4 or 5 cool shots, I can keep doing this. And that gets a bit absurd. The addition of a cooldown timer makes it, balances that out, that you cannot just keep spamming alphas or keep spamming, groups of 3 and 3 of, large pulses or ER large lasers, and then hit a cool shot when you're threatened to overheat and just keep going with it. Uh, you get, one chance at it, and then you've got, if you're back to overheating before that cooldown hits, it's zero marker, you're in trouble. So you definitely have to be situationally aware of not only what you're firing at, what's around you, but also of the limitations on your mech and on your consumable. In this case, the cool shot. So I actually like this change. I think it makes it a little bit better in stopping heavy damage, high heat alphas that we saw being spammed left, right, and center due to the ability to take cool shot to mitigate it.
And I would agree. It's something that I didn't really remember about in the changes when I first dropped in, but even then, I didn't really spec to go into that area anyways. I think I took maybe 3 points in auxiliary. I think.
Yeah,
One,
I do also like
three.
the expanded reserves for being able to carry additional UAVs.
Oh,
Having just
absolutely.
one was okay, but now I can, especially if I'm a light mech and I'm scouting, I can run up to where I anticipate the enemy is going to be, and I can pop my UAV. And if they're not there, I haven't just wasted my UAV and now rely on someone else to pop theirs somewhere else. I can run to the next point and think, okay, they weren't at this point, then they might be at this point. Pop another UAV, and I might get them this time. So very helpful there. The changes to artillery and airstrikes, the having nodes that it increased, the number of shots in the salvo, I thought was really nice. Advanced salvos increasing the duration of the strike also was really nice. So actually, though, I'm sorry, I should clarify that's one in the same. Increasing the number by increasing the duration. I find that to be a good addition because I was of the opinion that artillery and airstrikes have kind of gotten nerfed to being almost ineffective. They were no longer really stopping pushes and dealing out damage. They were pretty much mitigated. That if you just charged through, yeah, you took a little damage, but unless you were incredibly, incredibly unlucky and got a direct strike, it didn't really affect you all that much. Whereas in the past, artillery and airstrikes used to be incredibly, incredibly deadly, to the fact that they could headshot most mechs with impunity. We're not back to that level, which is probably a good thing, but they do make artillery and airstrikes actually somewhat worrisome. Again, you don't want to simply charge through or just sit there and take it. So a lot of this was, I think, at least for the auxiliary trees, all very nice. Uh, really helps.
Survival's another one that's really interesting to take
Yes.
a look at. Especially um, the the skeletal density, armor hardening, shock absorbance,
The
and
reinforced casing was
I was
actually
gonna
what I
say
thought.
reduce the critical hit chance against you is also
That
really neat.
that said, it's hard to say with critical chance because crits only seem to apply to weapon systems in MWO. There's nothing, there's really no critical chance for engines. There's no critical chance for like sensors or heat, other than weapons and heat sinks and targeting computers, they really isn't a crit chance for anything else. Structure doesn't have its own crit chances. Armor doesn't have its own crit chances. So I'm hoping that we might see in a later patch, some of those introduced in, because that would mean, go a long way to balancing out some of these systems and equipments and weapons by actually forcing in additional critical chances, and it would make the reinforced casing, very, important as it is right now, except for on a couple mechs which already have a intuitive reduction to critical hit chance. So I'm looking at some of the atlases and I'm looking at the hunchbacks in particular. It's not as big of an issue. So I'm hoping that that's indicative of changes to come. But yeah, the two big things there though are definitely the skeletal density and the armor hardening. Those, oh wow, you can make some
those can rack up some if you go hard down those lines, like those can rack up some really nice benefits for you.
Yeah.
The reason I brought this up, I also want to talk about, have you noticed a increase or decrease in time to kill yet from your matches that you've played?
Today it was really hard to get on notice of it because people are still, unsure of how they're specking out. I did notice when I took my Atlas out with the armor hardening and density done on them that it did change time to kill. It did increase it a little bit. That said, I was still the focus of attention, so I'm getting full alpha strikes from like 3 or 4 mechs. So at that point, it doesn't really matter.
Mm-hmm.
So while I think it does help increase time to kill, I'm still of the opinion that the only real way to fix time to kill is to deal with the pinpoint accuracy issue. I think that is the big thing that is, really hurting MWO. It makes it less fun. The fact that you can pinpoint strike with a 70-point alpha and, just obliterate someone. It's just, that's not battle tech. That's not Mech Warrior. That's Call of Duty. That's, CSGO, being able to one-shot someone. That's not a tactical shooter. That's, that's not a thinking man shooter. That's run and gun shooting. So I'm hoping with, the increase for survival tree and that eventually at some point, deal with the pinpoint accuracy issue that will bring MWO back around to where it should be as a game. Jump jet tree, pretty self-explanatory there.
Actually, I've heard a lot of people, certain mechs in particular, really benefit from the jump jet tree. I think the biggest example of that is someone found out while we were playing that the Victor can if you max out the jump jet tree, the Victor can jump over the defensive walls from ground level. It gets enough height that you're able to go over.
And they have all full jump jets on their mech?
Yeah.
Okay, so you can't do it with one jump jet. You need like
no. You have to still max it out. But I mean, that's when you think about where jump jets have gone, especially if it's something like, say, the Highlander or the Victor over the past about year and a half, like that's huge. Apparently the Spider also is absolutely nuts when it comes to jump jets as well.
Yes, I've seen the Spider, I've seen the Mist Lynx as well. Just take these flying leaps and just go sailing across the map, and you're like, is that a mech or is that an aerospace fighter going past me? What is that? I saw a Spider on Forest Colony take off from one end and literally transverse about half of the map, half of the map in a single jump, and everyone just kind of stopped and watched, and we were like, "What the hell was that?" And everyone asked, and he said, "I've got full jump jets on here. I maxed out the jump capability tree. I put every point into jump capabilities. Every node on that tree is set." And so he's got all the heat shielding, he's got all the vent calibration, he's got all the vectoring, he's got all the lift speed, and it was like, wow, that's impressive, because he didn't just sail across, he did it at height. He landed after blowing the entire jump jet load and busted his legs up pretty nicely. He went from full armor to down to about orange on them. So it came with a consequence, but the fact that he could fly that far, even if he had not unloaded the entire thing, if he had kept some in the reserve for the landing, it would have still put him pretty far. So
That's why you invest in the fall
shock
reduction.
absorbance.
Yeah. But yeah, no, the jump jets are pretty nuts on some mechs. So for people who are into that sort of thing, could be interesting, especially like this is what I'm saying. Like I'm looking at this, I'm seeing, some mechs might be jump snipers again.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people bring that worry up that with the mobility changes, pop
Well,
darting's coming back. I don't see that as actually being the case. I think there's
I
still
wouldn't be. I'm not too concerned with it, mainly because I think would be such a niche role that it would be acceptable.
that and there's so many fast moving mechs. I mean, we're not talking just lights. We've got fast mediums, we've got fast heavies that can get in quick or flank quickly and just punish anyone who's sitting there trying to pop tart. I you might be able to do it if you're the only person in game and you're using the rest of your team to tank for you, but it's not going to go back to where it was in closed beta where basically you'd have half the team doing pop tarting. That's no long I don't think even with the changes here that's going to be a viable strategy to return to.
And I would agree with that. That was basically my point. You might get
Yeah.
a mech or two. If someone's really organized, maybe four.
Yeah.
But it's going to
That
be.
said, also, while you bring up the Victor, I have not heard anything yet about this jump tree really affecting the Highlanders or the Executioners. So I don't know
No, I
if
don't
that's
think there. Well, I
because,
mean, I think just in general, not a lot of people play those mechs. But I
yeah,
might go. I might go give it a try here after the podcast. I might jump in a
we might.
Highlander and see what I can do with it.
Yeah. So
Um,
in the next podcast, we might have a better idea of just how these
yeah.
affect all
Chances
across the
are,
board.
like, I mean, the next podcast will probably be 2 weeks at the minimum.
Yeah.
Probably more like another month would be my guess, just from the way that basically updates have been rolling out for the game. It's probably safe to say about a month.
Okay. Next tree. We talked about survival. We've talked about mobility a bit. The big thing with mobility is you're getting out of it the kinetic burst. You're getting hard break. The torso yaw, pitch, speed, anchor turn is there. Speed tweak is there. Some people are complaining that in order to get to top speed tweak, they've got to put in, unlock a couple torso yaw and pitch and torso speed nodes that they would prefer not to have. Um, to that, I say, it stops people from min maxing and just having kinetic burst, hard break, anchor turn, and speed tweak, and just using 7 points instead of 11 points. It's and some people that's one of the big complaints I've been seeing is people saying this skill maze is not a skill tree. They would have preferred something linear. But the problem with a linear skill tree, especially with the way these points are set and the values are set, is I could see way too many people min maxing to get exactly what they want and not taking anything of anything else, let's say. And you know it would make things bland. It wouldn't it the if you were going to do that, you might have as well kept with the old system. Uh, Sensors. I've been seeing a lot of people questioning sensors. Not so much the target info gathering, the target retention, and target decay, but more so the ECM stuff. Uh, the big question people have been saying is with ECM, is it should you be investing points in ECM if you're a light and you want to be able to sneak up on someone? If you invest into ECM, it might be easier for someone to spot you when you sneak up on them. That is not actually the case. That's a bit of confusion. A couple people have reached out to PGI to get clarification on this, and uh, what PGI has officially responded with is that all that ECM does is increase the range for you in disruption mode to increase more friendly mechs to decrease weapon lock-on time. When it comes to actually to sensor scrambling, that is the only part of it that's actually tied to that part of the skill tree. All other attributes and effect ranges are as they were prior to the implementation of the new skill tree. So detection range stays as it is. Uh, it's really only for the weapon lock-on time and the like. It's not for really any of the other things. So sneaking up on someone, you can still do it. You're not giving away because you take the ECM and you increase your ECM range. All that does is increase the umbrella of ECM for protecting other mechs. It doesn't alert someone that you're closer to them than you actually are.
Do we talk about operations yet?
Operations.
I don't think so. That's another one where investing in it is costly if you want to get the good stuff. I don't mind. Of course, a lot of people would probably be going for the cool run, which out of the 5 I think that are on there, 2 are at the very bottom. Meaning that if you even wanted to shortcut that way, just give me a second. I'm going to do a quick count.
The problem people have been having that is they have to take
I think it's 9 points to get to the bottom. So
yeah, the problem people have been complaining with there is that they have to take some, a point in hill climb or with a point in speed retention and a point in improved gyros, and they don't like that. Again, it's just like with mobility. If you don't have those points in there where they're set, you get too much. It's just people min-maxing. And if that's what people want, then we should have stuck with the old system. Here, you can't just take what exactly what you want. You do have to spend some skill points on things that you may not initially want. That said, I think some of these points are being overlooked and they're actually quite valuable. The improved gyros, which reduces the amount of screen shake when hit by enemy fire, I think is an unappreciated point that is actually worthwhile, especially if you're getting a hit by something like a Kodiak 3 where it's just all, DACA, DACA, DACA. This means that you're not shaking like you're in an earthquake. Speed retention, I think, is another point that's, people underappreciate. If you get legged and get left, you actually still have somewhat an ability to somewhat, still move and still be effective. Hill climb's the one where I do agree that that one's never been very useful, and I don't know if it's been tweaked at all to make it more useful. It always seemed to be rather, it didn't actually seem to affect mechs when mechs that you did want to climb a hill probably already could without the hill climb module, and mechs that couldn't climb the hill without it, you probably weren't trying to climb the hill anyway with that mech. So I don't know really if hill climb is going to be useful here, but I do think improved gyros and speed retention are. More so the improved gyros, because legging seems to be not as prevalent anymore.
And that's where I would agree with you there as well. Like I think a lot. I think out of that skill tree, and basically heat containment is going to be a big one, and cool run. I think those are the two people are going to be looking at the most.
Quick ignition is another thing, especially if you're you're shutting down, because you want to get back into the fight as quickly as possible.
That's true. Yeah.
But the big thing is the firepower tree. That is the huge tree, and that's the tree we're definitely going to see additions to it come July with with the Civil War update. We know there are new weapons on the way. We know they're going to have nodes put in for them. We fully expect, the RACs, the rotary autocannons, are going to get nodes put on the firepower tree. But we see, right there, we've got universal skills on the firepower tree: cooldown, heat generation, range, and velocity. We then have specific weapon skill. We've got laser duration, high explosive, missile rack, missile spread, Gauss charge, LBX spread, UAC jam chance, magazine capacity. And they put in specific notations of just how, especially when it comes to magazine capacity, just how much you get per node, and that it does differ from clan to IS. Inner Sphere gets, with an AC2 per node, gets 8 to AC2, 3 to AC5, 2 to AC10, 1 to AC20, 2 to LB10s, 3 to UAC5s, and 1 to Gauss, where clans get 8 to AC2s, 6 to AC5, 6 to AC10, 4 to AC20, 2 to LB10s, 6 to UAC5s, and 1 to Gauss. So there are changes there, predominantly due to the fact that clans don't fire a single shot, they fire a burst of shells, and all of those shells need to hit in order to do the full amount of damage. So, having them get extra ammunition for each time they choose a magazine capacity node makes sense in order to balance it so that it's somewhat equal for what's, being applied. For the same amount of shells that the IS would get, you would expect, the clans to get an equivalent amount to match up.
Yeah, and that's yeah.
Things like the Gauss rifle and the AC-20s only getting one shot per node. I know I've seen a number of people complain about that should be more. To that I say, they already tweaked the amount of Gauss rifle rounds per ton from 8 to 10. So it's my opinion, quit your whining.
I mean, I'm not going to disagree with you there. I think asking for more than an extra ton for those two weapons in particular is iffy. Maybe +2, but it's definitely not as you don't need a whole lot more.
Yeah. We also see, there are differences between clans and Inner Sphere when it comes to cooldown. Inner Sphere gets a -9%, whereas clans get a -7% per node. Total node value is if you do all of the cooldown nodes for Inner Sphere, you get a -9.9%, whereas clans is -7.7%. We also see for duration, Inner Sphere gets a -1.5%, where clans are only getting a 1%. So Inner Sphere, if you take all the laser duration nodes, you get a -15%, whereas clans only get a -10%. And all that pretty much stacks up with the in-game and in-universe fluff that's been put in to describe these weapon systems. Clans get more range and more damage because they have longer burn times. Inner Sphere get less range and less damage because they have shorter burn times. I think a lot of this matches up properly. I don't see an issue there. But the problem some people are saying is, they have to take nodes that they, again, don't want to take. I don't think it's as bad in firepower, especially considering they made a number of changes to firepower where you can take just energy quirks.
I was going to say, people who don't know, who only played perhaps the beta test of this in the test server.
Yeah, the second beta
test. The firepower tree is 100% different. It's not the same at all.
If you took took part in the first public test of this, the firepower tree was much, much messier. You had to take nodes that would not affect your weaponry at all, especially if you're on a mech that had no machine gun, no ballistics, no missiles. In order to take some of the laser uh, points, you would still have to spec into missile and spec into ballistics. You'd have to take something like velocity, which made no sense on an all laser build because velocity is not used. And people complained. And we see a new firepower tree that got tested in the second PTS, and which we see now, that deals away with a lot of that. You don't have to take a lot of those points in order to spec something out as being all ballistic or all missile or all energy. You do have a easier time with that. That said, there are some points that are locked behind others, and you either have to take a more circuitous route in order to get to it, or you're going to have to spend 1 or 2 points into nodes that you may not want. And again, that stops min-maxing. So is it perfect? No. Is it better than what we had? I would say yes.
I would say so, yes. That is definitely better than what we had.
I mean, a lot of this is replacing the quirks that were endemic to each mech and making it and putting them instead into the skill tree. So you can go variant by variant and make changes based upon how you want to play that mech, what your play style is, what the build is that you want to run on it. Uh, One of the things Paul described in the Q&A regarding the changes to this new skill tree was we saw power creep happening with a lot of new mechs because people would play those mechs to what the quirks were on them. They would only run builds on them that maximize the efficiency of the quirks that were given on the mech. People would not tinker. They would not make major divergent builds because they didn't match up with the quirks. And that kind of kills a lot of the spirit of MechWarrior in BattleTech, of where you can make, huge changes and different builds per variant. And it doesn't have to be all the same. And the skill tree as is allows for that. It allows you to run completely different builds per variant and do multiple builds on the same variant that all are, you know, equally, viable at times. Is there still going to be meta builds? Yes. People are going to figure out ways to, get the most out of it. We can fully expect that to be the case. Um, does it help balance things more than what they were previously? I would say yes. Is it perfect? No, but it's a step in the right direction.
Just trying to think if there's anything else really about the skill tree that stands out.
I did see a couple things. First of all, people should note that unlocking a skill node does not mean that you have to take it. You can unlock all of the skill nodes on all of the different trees and not take them because you can only have 91 active nodes at a time. So you can unlock all 237 and only pick the 91 that you really want and have those others still unlocked, ready for use. You just have to activate them. Uh, the changes to the economy of that, I think, are useful. You know, deactivate you know deactivating a node, is free. Reactivating it costs 400 XP. I don't see an issue with that. That's not that bad of a cost. It means that you only have to run basically one match in order to make a change if you don't have the XP already there, or you don't have the GXP ready to go. Some people were, prior to the change, were saying, buy duplicates of every mech that you want, that you already have mastered, in order to get a full 182 points, and then you could overload the skill tree. That doesn't actually work. You are limited to 91. So,
Yeah.
and everyone who bought, two, battle masters or two warhammers, because they had, that one already mastered, and they thought, oh, I can get, I can have everything on the skill tree now because I've got those two more, two copies of this mech, or one copy of this mech. No, that doesn't actually work. You are limited to 91. It will not go to 92. It will not go to 93. It stops at 91. As soon as you have 91 active nodes, it stops. You can still unlock all the other nodes, you just can't have them active at the same time. I've seen a number of complaints about the refund. I don't think that there's an issue there, per se.
From what I've read, if you had any modules equipped on mechs, I think people are missing their C bills from those ones. Though I have no confirmation on it. That's just something consistent that I see people complaining about. Though I cannot confirm personally.
I know when I checked my refund ledger, it was around what I was expecting. I didn't have a lot of MC consumables, so I didn't get a huge amount of MC back. I think I got just a little bit over 1,000 MC. I did have a lot of C-bill consumables. I had like 109 UAVs.
Yeah, so I had a lot of those as well. That added up to quite a bit.
The refunds,
I'm looking at my ledger here now. For those who don't know as well, you can go to your profile on the MechWire Online website, MWO Mercs. Under your profile, there is a tab, just like how you could add 30 days of premium time, or activate 30 days of premium time there, or assign LP to a faction if you haven't already. Just between those two, there's the skill tree ledger, so you can click that and you can see the breakdown. Even after you click through it on the in-game one.
And I believe you can bring the in-game one back up as well. I don't remember how offhand, but I thought they said you can bring it back up in-game so that you can double check it if you thought you were missing something. A lot of my modules I got GSP from. I didn't get really any C-bills from modules, because I had purchased almost all of my modules prior to December 3rd, because I've been playing this game for so long. I didn't need to buy extras after a certain point, so I'm okay with getting the GSP instead of the C-bill funding. I have a ton of C-bills, so for veteran players like me that we were already sitting on 200,000 or 300,000 or more. I'm sorry, not thousand, like million. I think now with the refund, I'm sitting on close to like 400 million C-bills. So it's like, I'm okay with the fact that I didn't get C-bills from my modules. I just got GSP. For players that aren't in my situation, it's not like this wasn't hidden from you. They've been saying this for quite a while, and they changed the initial cutoff from February back to December in order to give people more time based upon the initial announcement at MechCon. So you should have been aware, and if you weren't aware, then you need to start paying more attention to announcements from PGI, both on the predominantly those announcements that come up on the main website.
Is there anything else really for the skill tree that we should go over?
Not particularly. I think
I'm sure we'll get a comment or two on our video here.
fully expect to get comments, and I fully welcome comments. I fully welcome you to put comments up. If you agree with us, disagree with us, if you think we miss a point, let us know. We try to respond to comments and explain our positions further, or if we find that you've made a very good point, yeah, we'll acknowledge it. So feel free to leave us a comment. As for the rest of the skill tree, I think we're okay on that. Um, you know, I saw a lot of people playing mechs that I had not seen in a long while, trying to master those out in order to get the already unlocked skill points. I know I did that for a number of mechs that I had not mastered out fully. I had close to 400,000 in GXP saved up. I used the majority of it unlocking mastery slots on mechs that I knew I wasn't going to make it in time to unlock them all. So
Yeah.
So
And again,
and they do give that breakdown in the patch notes of if you have a mech that was at a basic level or at a elite level or at a mastered level, how many skill points you got from it, and they actually show you if you didn't make it fully to the mastered or you didn't make it fully to the elite, depending on what you had unlocked on that mech, this is the number of skill points you got from it. So if you on your Highlander 2C, if you didn't get to fully elited and you only had quick ignition and speed tweak, then for that level you got an additional 13 skill points for speed tweak, an additional 6 points of skill, additional 6 skill points for quick ignition on top of the 23 that you got for having the mech basiced out. So you missed out on 10 skill points for fast fire and 5 points for pinpoint. So it's they do have a full breakdown there. If you still had XP sitting on your mech, you did master it out, and it was still sitting there when the changeover came. That XP is still sitting there. I went on and checked a couple of my mechs that had huge amounts of XP on after I mastered it, and that I never converted over to GXP. It's all still sitting there. It's still there. I fully expect it to come back up next time that you can the next time they ask, they run a conversion sale, you'll be able to convert that over to GXP again. So that's all still there. You didn't lose any of that. I saw a lot of people concerned that, oh, I'm going to lose all of the extra XP that I have on this mech. And it's like, no, it's still all there. It just fits into the new system now. If you've already mastered it out, you can use that extra XP to unlock nodes. And if you don't want to unlock more nodes, you can use it, you can convert it over to GXP. That's still available to you.
Other than that, anything else for tonight's episode
that
you can
the
think of?
Tukid 3 event ended this past weekend. I do have to say, it was a very interesting event because we saw the implementation of the tug of war bar for it. The winning condition wasn't to have the most days won or to have the highest score on the leaderboard or per faction. It was instead to be in control of the tug of war bar at the end of the event. So while clans won every day, if the Inner Sphere had made a gigantic push on that last day and gotten the bar over to their side of control at the last minute, they would have still won. So all these people that I hear complaints from saying, "Oh, it was completely unbalanced and unfair," Inner Sphere didn't have a chance. It's like, no, Inner Sphere totally had a chance. They actually had a better chance this time than they did in the last two kids. So Tukid 3, I think, was probably the most balanced of all 3 2-kid events. That said, clans won each day. And if you look at the scores and you add them all up, clans outscored the Inner Sphere by around 30,000 points. So Inner Sphere just didn't put in the work. And you can't say, oh, it was clan bias due to mechs. I saw a lot of good Intersphere mechs out there that were running the board, and they did incredibly well. The Stalker 4N, the Battle Masters with large lasers and large lasers and large pulses. In scouting, the Intersphere, most days seem to battle back in scouting really well. I saw a lot of bushwhackers. I saw a lot of griffins, especially the Griffin 2N, and they were just cleaning house against their clan opponents a lot of the time. So, Intersphere did have a chance to win this one, and they could have made just planned out one gigantic push at the end. They didn't seem to. It cost them. Oh well. They can't even complain. I don't also I also will say this. They can't complain that they didn't have a number of good units on their side. Both sides had I would say a comparable amount of high level, high number units. 228th went Merrick. Merkstar was Liao. Eisengrim was, of course, with Rosselhog. Night Scorn was with Karita. You had Headhunters of Davian over with Davian. Evil was with was with Steiner. You had a lot of units that make their bones in faction warfare, in community warfare, and they were pretty evenly distributed between both sides in the factions within each side. So I think it really came down to how many the coordination of each faction. I think clans kind of got their momentum going and kept going with it, and Intersphere just didn't get their momentum up and didn't coordinate.
I think that's a safe. I unfortunately was going through at work. We were going through inventory, so I didn't get a chance to play because I was basically at work 12 hours a day. It was great.
I played every night except one, where I played only 2 matches that night, and I missed my qualifying match score of 400 by 2 points. That really hurt. I had to get off early that night due to family business, and it's like, darn it, if I had just done a little bit more in one of those matches, I would have made it. I do have to say I liked the personal challenges for Tuki at this time. I thought they were a lot more varied, and they gave out some really good prizes for it. People who played could easily have gotten, if they played every day and got their minimum match score, could have easily racked up between 800 and 1,000 MC. You got 700 MC just for completing the Scout Mode challenge and the regular Invasion challenge. And that's without factoring in the daily challenges of, having your faction win. So there was a lot of, really good prizes here, a lot of GXP, a lot of C-bills, premium time in MC. So I am hoping that a lot of people took the time, put in some effort, and played and got some good prizes. And of course, congratulations to those units that topped the leaderboards and showed that they are, they know what they're doing. A lot of these teams are the ones that we saw in the World Tournament last year, and I fully expect to see a lot of them in the coming tournament this year.
Yes, and also I believe that's something I completely forgot until you brought up. I believe MechCon 2017 dates have been posted.
Yes, we are looking at December 9th.
I was going to say it was pre-December 10th. It was a single digit. I knew that. So.
It's December 9th, back in Vancouver. They took a lot of feedback from the MechCon surveys. They actually posted up results from the surveys. They had 1,952 survey responses. 240 people who responded said that they were participants that attended MechCon. 763 people plan to attend MechCon this year. They did put a little caveat: better buy tickets soon. They looked at what people thought were their favorite elements of MechCon. Number one was the MechWarrior Online World Championship Finals. The second favorite were the presentations, especially the MechWarrior 5 reveal. And third was meeting fellow MechWarrior and BattleTech fans, as well as the devs. People seem to really enjoy getting to meet people in person and realize, hey, I've played with you, I've talked to you on TeamSpeak, but I've never met you in real life, and you're actually a fun guy to hang around with, or a fun girl to hang around with. People traveled predominantly from North America, being the number one. Europe was second, Australia was third, and fourth was local Vancouver, British Columbia. But they had people attend from Asia, South America, and Africa as well. And overwhelmingly, people want the event to be on the weekend. And so December 9th for 2017 is a Saturday, and they are fully expecting to do another Twitch stream for MechCon 2017. They did note that they will fix the music on the stream and make the stream a little bit easier to watch and to understand. They are hoping to have more engagement, more fun, more fans, more hype, more everything. So, MechCon 2017, bigger, better, and uncut.
But I think that's everything for tonight's episode. Unless, again, you have anything else?
Nope.
All right, so I'm sure
there was a slight hiccup after the end of the Tukiyid event. People noticed that when Tukiyid 3 ended, group play was accidentally disabled. They did fix that. If you noticed, they made an announcement about that Monday morning. They reactivated faction play conflict in order to allow group play again. That was a simple coding error from what they have said. It was not meant to go through. It was completely unforeseen, and they apologized. So group play is back into effect if you are not aware.
All right, then.
That's everything.
Now that's everything. Okay. Just wanted to make sure. So I just want to thank everybody to listening to this episode of the A.C.E.S Junkyard Podcast. Again, like I said earlier in the episode, we'll probably be looking at the earliest 2 weeks for an episode, hopefully. At the latest, probably about another month again. And that has to do more with the patch schedules, because what's the point of doing... I shouldn't say what's the point of doing an episode, but like... It requires a lot of time and commitment to sit down and do this sort of stuff. A lot of planning on my part, where I'm currently residing in about 3 different locations due to work. So there's a lot of travel on my part. The longest one being, I think, about a 4.5 hour car drive on the highway to go from my hotel room to where my actual recording stuff is, etc. So, if basically it requires a tie up on myself and Tier's end to try to get episodes done. Not that we don't enjoy doing them, because we do. It's just, and there's also another thing as well, is like, why do an episode when there's only maybe two things to talk about, 2 small things. So if it wasn't for tonight's patch, it would have been just the Tukiyid event and the HBS beta date announcement type thing. So we try to line these up with patches because that gives us the most content to talk about, and I hope people understand is basically what it comes down to. So I just want to say once again, as I end this ramble about my personal life and the things going on with the podcast.
For those who think we went too long, Do you realize I could have gone for another half hour and called Cattra out onto the floor for his comments and some of his downplaying of issues on the latest NGNG podcast, where they talked about balance and pinpoint and several other things, where when I listened to them, I wanted to reach through my screen and strangle the life from him. But
well,
because people don't want to listen to a
okay.
full 2 hours.
I will bring this up. I got about another 20 minutes. Let's do this. No, the issue was that I was actually contacted. Phil and Darren both contacted me. I think it was about 40 minutes or 30 minutes before the episode, so I had no time to prepare for the topics that were on hand. So it was just kind of like,
Oh, okay. So throw them under the bus.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to throw NGNG under the bus for having me on as a guest. Screw those guys. No, I'm joking. No, it was a very short term thing because I think they had another guest cancel out. If people want to see my beautiful, handsome, infant-like face, it is on the NGNG YouTube now, I believe. And if people want to get mad at my comments, that is also available on the NGNG YouTube. And I want to thank them for having me on as a guest, even though it was very short-term notice. But yeah, there was a lot of on-the-moment, sporadic thinking on how to answer things type questions that I didn't really have an answer prepared for, or knowing that the topic on hand was coming up. So I will end it on that, because yeah, I was going back and listening to it myself. It was just kind of like, oh man, I did not explain that correctly at all type moments. But that's what happens when you get thrown on the spot with a lot of stuff. I think more so than like what we do here is have a doc, a Google Doc that I update every now and then, and usually the topics on hand, either Tier messages me or we communicate probably about 24 hours before an episode.
At least 24 hours. Oftentimes we're messaging each other about topics up to 10 minutes before.
Yeah.
A lot of nights before we jump on, I'm talking with Brandon at at least an hour beforehand, and confirming what we're going to talk about, because inevitably PGI brings up will announce something new right as we're starting, or right as we're ending.
Which, let me just go check the outreach real quick. Give me a second.
Don't worry, I don't think anything else has been added.
I was gonna say,
that said, I have not checked Twitter.
Oh God. Yeah, because it's right about this time where I think it's about 5. I want to say about at least my time, because I'm on Atlantic time because I live out in the ocean. So it's about 9:40 p.m. my time now, which is about 5, I believe. So it's just as the quote unquote end of day is for a lot of places out in Vancouver on the other side of Canada. So I think that's why when we do our episodes, a lot of stuff comes up as we're in the middle of the episode. So that's our fun stuff.
The biggest thing on Twitter right now for MWO, the Beef put up a image relating to the new skill tree, just dropped now live, #MWO, and the image is of someone screaming in confusion. So yeah.
That's the Beef for you,
which is completely appropriate and quite indicative of a lot of people right now.
I want to bring this up right now, because this is something that I've seen brought up a couple times during this podcast, refreshing the forums and stuff like that. And this is going to be my kind of like closing, I guess, monologue on the skill tree. A lot of people saying, well, how are new players going to understand the changes from the old system to the new? And the answer is quite simple. They won't, because they would have never used the old skill tree. So learning the new skill tree is the only thing they're going to know.
And if they did use the old one, they probably weren't heavily invested in it.
Exactly. It's probably going to be a bigger change, or at least understanding on how it works for old players who have been playing since the skill tree came out, the old one, than I would say for new players coming in, seeing all this stuff and learning from the beginning on like how it works. There's no transition time, nothing like that. I'm not saying that is it easy to understand. No, of course not. But I've also played games where your skill trees have been a lot more of a jumbled mess than, say, what we have now. And if people don't understand, look up a Ragnarok Online skill tree simulator, because that shit's insane, to the point where you need specific values in certain skills to unlock other skills, which will also require other prerequisites for other stuff. It's literally a huge fucking mess. And yeah, so I see this and it's like, oh, it's just a tree that goes downwards, whereas it's not like, oh, I have to backtrack skills like 3 levels back and I messed up, so I gotta go pay money to reset my skills. Anyways, that is my ending rant, that new players will probably understand the skill tree more so than the rule of 3 requiring mastery system.
Yeah.
And that will be my end monologue / rant, and people can hate on it all they want, and I will be okay with it. I will just send you a okay symbol emoji.
And actually, you bring up a good point that we failed to touch on. This new skill tree means you don't have to have 3 mechs in order to fully master something out. You can do 1. So all those Omni mechs that you have in the same configuration, if you only want 1 Omni mech now, if you only want that 1 Timberwolf, and you'll just buy Omnipods to configure it and change it, you can do that now. You're no longer limited to being forced to buy 3. So
and I don't think people take that into consideration when you talk economy as well. Like that decreases the amount of grind for new players
quite considerably.
Yes.
It decreases the amount of C-Bulls they have to spend. It decreases the amount of MC they have to spend, because they don't have to buy a new mech pay for 2 more mechs. So
anyways, thank you everybody for the 3rd time now for listening to the Junkyard Podcast.
4th time now.
4th
5th
time now.
6th.
5th time. 20th time. Thank you for listening. We will see you.
2.
We will see you in the next episode. And until next time, Mech Warriors,